Okay, we left off with Martin at the bed and breakfast that Wallace's parents owned, and he is having breakfast. Okay. Tekla and Fanuel filled me in on Wallace's news. I did not know that he had moved in with Caitlin's family for a while, or that Anne and Rich had helped him find a new apartment with a much nicer roommate to finish his freshman year with. Anne treats Wallace like her own son, Tekla said. We'll never know how to repay her kindness. I feel the same, I said. This family is the reason I'm sitting here with you. Fanuel asked me about my own college news, and I told him that I was still waiting for a scholarship. Anne and I speak often, Tekla said. She's determined to find one. And from what she tells us, so are you, Fanuel said. I was determined, and I really had to be, as I had not made any other alternative plans. Optimism was key. If I doubted now, even for a moment, I would never get to the United States. We finished eating, and I went to unpack. I had only brought a few things. The 3 shirts Caitlin had sent me over the years, my dungarees, cargo shorts, and Fila sneakers. As I hung these things up in my closet, I saw that every item of clothing I owned came from Caitlin. Somehow they gave me hope. I showered and then changed into fresh clothes. Tekla was waiting for me downstairs to take me to the falls. As we approached the national park, I heard a dull roar. It sounded like an army of angels clapping. We pulled into the parking lot, which was thronged with mostly white tourists. From there, we walked down a dirt path to the first viewpoint. The ground beneath my feet trembled so much I could feel a vibration in my teeth. Soon, a damp spray was enveloping me. It moistened my skin and turned trapped sunlight into soft rainbows. The vegetation became more lush and vibrant green as we neared the first gorge. The sound was deafening by the time we reached the cliff's edge, and I finally saw why. The cascade of water was so vast and mighty, I thought the angels were not only clapping, they were giving a standing and stomping ovation for a spectacle only God could have created. From there, Tekla took me to the bed and breakfast a kilometer away and introduced me to the staff as the new receptionist. My job was to greet and check guests in, and then help with any travel requests. My first day, I met 2 Americans, 4 Australians, and a group of people from the United Kingdom who had arrived on a tour bus. Victoria Falls is a must-see stop on any Zimbabwe package tour. Tourists would stay for 2 days before heading down to Hwang. I'd never seen so many white people in my life. I told everyone I met about Caitlin. At the bed and breakfast, there was a computer connected to the internet, so I was able to communicate with Caitlin and Anne frequently, though there wasn't much news. Waiting was quite painful. In the meantime, I read an ad in the newspaper about a pre-departure orientation for Zimbabwean students who were planning to study in America. It was taking place at the U.S. Embassy in early June. I called the number listed and spoke to a woman called Rebecca Mano. I told her I was interested in the orientation, but wasn't sure if I'd be going to college that September, as I was still waiting a scholarship. Tell me your name again, she said. Martin Gonda, I said. I know you, she responded. Your pen pal emailed me a few months ago. Caitlin? I asked. Yes, Rebecca said. She got in touch to see if I could help find Zimbabwean sponsors. I wish we could. Caitlin never told me this, but I didn't let on. Oh, yes, of course, I said. We're not giving up. Nor should you, she added. I was recently on the phone with Villanova's office. The recruiter was raving about you. Come to the orientation. This way you'll be prepared when they do find the money. Those words instilled such hope, as if the angels were clapping for me too. I asked Tekla if it was okay for me to go to Harar that weekend to attend the course. You must, she said. Aloise and Seki once again greeted me warmly. When you do go to America, don't forget everyone here, Aloise said. That would be impossible, I replied. I'd never been to an American embassy before, but it was like they'd planted what I'd imagined was a building from New York City or Washington, D.C. in the middle of Harar. I walked through the wrought iron gates and felt like I was suddenly transported to the United States. Even the doorknobs were different. big, heavy, and polished, proud. I entered the building and walked up to the security guards, who asked me for identification. My name was on the list, and the guard pointed down a long hallway to a room where the orientation was taking place. I saw a white woman with long blonde hair holding a clipboard and asked her where I could find Rebecca Mano. Mia Mano, she said. I was shocked. I was certain Rebecca was black. When we spoke on the phone, her Shona was impeccable. As I was still reeling, she asked if I had gotten my Majekskin, Shona for vaccination injection. She spoke my native tongue fluently. I had just started wandering around the room when Rebecca called everyone to take seats and explained that the orientation was to prepare us for some of the bigger cultural differences between Zimbabwe and America. Money is quite different for starters, she said. U.S. bills are all the same size, so make sure you look at the number in the corners, she explained. I knew this already. This was going to be a breeze. But then she handed around some coins. They were totally confusing. She said the 10-cent coin was smaller than the 5-cent one, but was worth more and was called a dime. I started taking notes. There were about 20 other students there, all going to the U.S. for the first time. Most were black kids from Harar, whose parents were paying for everything, but a few came from far away like me. I was the only one awaiting a scholarship. Next, Rebecca introduced Freedom, who was already studying in the U.S. Americans are funny about food, he began. To start, there's so much you won't believe your eyes. A hamburger is the size of your plate. Everyone laughed. This was something we all wanted to see. If you have a roommate, you don't have to offer them any of your food, he continued. And if your roommate leaves food in the fridge, you have to ask permission before you eat it. We all started laughing again. In Zimbabwe, everyone shares. I wouldn't eat if you weren't eating too. That would be rude. I learned this the hard way, Freedom continued. My roommate reported me for eating his leftovers. One girl raised her hand. Why? She asked. Leftovers means you're full. Everyone agreed, including Freedom. That's how we feel here, he said, but America is different. This was important information. Freedom next talked about clothes. Same deal. Americans don't share their clothes. For us, there is no mine or yours. I could wake up and my mom would be wearing the t-shirt Caitlin gave me, or my brother would have on the shoes I often wore. It wasn't a big deal. In Shona, we say the little we have, we share. Even at Marist, everyone shared. Some people would bring cans of fish from home because we didn't get fish at school, or they would bring peanut butter. If my peanut butter runs out, I'd say, I'm getting peanut butter from your jar. No one cared. Rebecca introduced another student who told us about the parties and how everyone drinks beer. That was shocking. We didn't do that at Marist. Our parties were alcohol-free. At that point, I saw myself as someone who would never drink in my life. I'd had one sip of beer and thought it tasted nasty. It does. Ugh, gross. Many students at the orientation were already over 21, so this guy said, be careful. Buying alcohol for underage U.S. students can get you in serious trouble. What kind? Someone asked. You can be arrested and deported, he said. I jotted that down too. American greetings were another topic. If someone asks, how's it going? The answer to that question is fine, Freedom explained. No one has time for anything else. This was fascinating. We have 6 different ways of saying hello in Shona, each appropriate for a specific time of the day. Ngwanawani means good morning, as is usually the start of a 5-minute conversation, like, how did you sleep? What are you going to do today? In the States, Freedom said, people just say, hi, and keep going. I'd taken 4 pages of notes by the time the American ambassador arrived. He told us that he went to Harvard with Edson Bogo, the first black Zimbabwean to go to the famous university. He eventually became a professor in the United States, the ambassador said. People often talk about the American dream. Edson had one. and now you do too. By July, I hadn't heard anything from Caitlin or Anne, and I was starting to get nervous. I sent them a quick note, using all caps, to stay positive. Somehow these large letters helped. I told them I was waiting patiently, which I was truly trying to do, and to please keep me updated on any news. I signed it with a string of X's and O's, and then Martin, 2003 undergraduate American University student. All right, the next chapter is Caitlin, June 2003. By the end of April, we had heard from all the colleges Martin applied to. 5 accepted him, 3 offered him partial scholarships, and 2 offered him a place but no money. The last letter came in from NYU. Another rejection. That was it. We had reached the end of the road. I crumpled it up in the driveway and burst into tears. I'd failed my friend. I promised him we would find a way for him to study in the United States, but it felt impossible. The only thing I could do was work even harder and start saving money to bring him here myself. More bad news, I shouted as I entered the house. What now? My mom asked. I threw the ball into the kitchen counter, the paper ball, and onto the kitchen counter. That's it, I said. It's over, Mom. Not yet, she said. I knew she was working on other avenues. She had reached out to the local politicians and the papers. She was even organizing a bake sale to raise money. Oops. Sorry. I sent Rebecca Mono an email this morning, she continued. I'm going to see if we can get him here on a visitor's visa. How does that help? I asked. He can accept the spot at Villanova, and then we'll keep working once he's here to raise money to cover the fees, she said. I knew this was a last resort for my parents. They were paying for Richie to go to Temple, and I was planning to continue at the community college in the fall. In the meantime, my high school graduation was coming up, and my mom wanted to take me dress shopping. I didn't have the heart to tell her I didn't care about a new dress, or graduation for that matter. I couldn't wait to be done with high school. The day my mother and I planned to go shopping, she surprised me. I wrote a letter to Father Dobbin this morning, she said, sliding a piece of paper in front of me. I knew he was the president of Villanova because my mother had been talking about him lately. He was her last shot at a miracle. I wanted to make sure he realized what a big mistake Villanova was making by not giving Martin a scholarship, she said as I began to read. Dear Father Dobbin, we are contacting you as our last resort for helping a young man from Zimbabwe. Martin Gonda is a 20-year-old from Mutare, Zimbabwe, and has been our daughter's pen pal since 1997. Our daughter initially paid for Martin's schooling fees with her babysitting money until his family became destitute from declining economic conditions. At that point, we took over the support and tuition for Martin and his family. Martin has been accepted at Villanova University for fall 2003. Unfortunately, our daughter and son are both college students, which means we are unable to finance Martin's college education as well. Your colleagues at VU have been very supportive of our plight, yet we still do not have any funds. Martin graduated from Nyanga High School with honors last fall. He secured a part-time teaching position and is currently working in a tourist cottage to earn money for his family. Father, we know you have a very heavy load of responsibilities, and we would never ask for our own children, but this young man has nothing. We are his only hope. Do you have any connections or programs seeking students like Martin to sponsor? Would you know of any other avenues for us to pursue? Please explore any resources you may have to help our dear young friend. His information should be available in admissions, and I have copies of the emails, including a story of Martin's sad life and how he touched our hearts. Thank you in advance for your help. Sincerely, Richard and Anne. Tears were streaming down my face as I read my mom's last-ditch effort. Send it, I said. Let's bless it first, she said. Okay, and there's just I'll finish this chapter on our next one because I'm running out of time.